Hello, everybody, and especially our dear Helene. I found a poem called Ode to a Butterfly by Thomas Wentworth Higginson, who I certainly didn't know before I found his poem, but is a marvelous 19th century Renaissance person who actually knew all of the transcendentalists and who was a commander of a all Black troop during the Civil War. And then after the Civil War, he decided to try his luck with writing poetry. And I hope that everybody agrees with me with what you think of his efforts. Once again, this is Ode to a Butterfly by Thomas Wentworth Higginson. And
Can you make it any bigger?
No, sorry.
His dates are 1823 to 1911. So he lived through much of our history. Thou spark of life that wavest wings of gold, thou songless wanderer mid the songful birds, with nature's secret
to a butterfly.
With nature's secrets in thy tints unrolled through gorgeous cipher, past the reach of words, yet dear to every child, in glad pursuit beguiled, living his unspoiled days mid flowers and flocks and herds. Thou wingest blossom, liberated thing, what secret tie binds thee to other flowers, still held within the garden's fostering? Will they too soar with the completed hours, take flight and be like thee, irrevocably free, hovering at will o'er their parental bowers? Or is thy luster drawn from heavenly hues, a sumptuous drifting fragment of the sky, caught when the sunset its last glance imbues with sudden splendor, and the treetops high grasp that swift blazonry? Then lend those tints to thee, on thee to float a few short hours and die. Birds have their nests, they rear their eager young, and fly on errands all the livelong day. Each field mouse keeps the homestead whence it sprung, but thou art nature's freeman, free to stray unfettered through the wood. Sorry, I just have to repeat those two lines. They're so great. But thou art nature's freeman, free to stray unfettered through the wood, seeking thine airy food, the sweetness spiced on every blossom spray. The garden one wide banquet spread for thee, O daintiest reveler of the joyful earth. One drop of honey gives satiety. A second drop would drug thee past all mirth. Thy feast no orgy shows, thy calm eyes never close, thou sober sprite to which the sun gives birth. And yet the soul of man upon thy wings forever soars in aspiration, thou his emblem of the new career that springs when death's arrest bid all his spirits bow. He seeks his hope in thee of immortality, symbol of life, me with such faith endow.
Well, thank you, Francie, for your always relevant and meaningful choices. We're grateful to have you do this. And now some logistics and reminders about Zoom protocol. At the end of Helene's presentation, we'll have a question and answer period with Sid Booth, our moderator. And please post your questions on chat during the talk addressed to everyone so Sid can include your questions. At around 1 o'clock, Karen will take over. She will read questions Helene has suggested to spark our conversations in the breakout rooms. At around 1:25, we will regroup for brief concluding remarks. So please stay muted until we go to the breakout room so we don't interrupt our speaker. It's up to you whether you wish to be seen, but I encourage you to leave your videos on. Finally, to prevent feedback, please do not use more than one device signed into Lunch and Learn in the same room of this Lunch and Learn talk. Now I am delighted to introduce Helene Granof. Helene has studied and taught about monarch butterflies. As an elementary school teacher, she introduced lessons about monarch butterflies by raising and releasing them. Helene traveled to the mountains of Mexico to see them. In this presentation, you will learn about these marvelous and extraordinary creatures, especially because they are endangered. Helene graduated from the University of Michigan as a science major. At George Washington University, Helene studied to become a medical technologist and spent the next 6 years at a clinical chemistry lab at the NIH. After her 3 children reached school age, Helene became a teacher and taught 2nd and 4th graders for 27 years. Upon retirement, she was a substitute teacher. For her innovative teaching, Helene received the 1999 President's Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. Helene continues her interest in butterflies, bees, spiders, and other insects as a docent at the Insect Zoo, which is part of the Smithsonian's Natural History Museum. Helene and her husband, Gene, have been members of Temple Micah for 54 years. Thank you, Helene, and we're all ready for you.
Okay. As Harriet said, I'm Helene Granof, and I'm here to talk about marvelous monarch butterflies. So originally I left off the butterflies, and Roberta Gluck is the one who said, people will think you're talking about kings and queens if you talk about marvelous monarchs. So I added butterflies. So I'm not a scientist. I majored in science and zoology. I taught a lot of science in 2nd and 4th grade for 27 years at Montgomery County Public Schools at Burning Tree Elementary School. Do you want to know how the monarchs got their names? Legend holds that Prince William of Orange, later King William III, back in the 1600s, was so adored by some European settlers to North America that they bequeathed the name monarch on a very orange and regal butterfly in his honor. The real name is Dana Plexipus. So I'm a lepidopterist. Are you all lepidopterists? Sure you are. A lepidopterist is a person who studies butterflies and moths. So today you are lepidopterists. And I have a Peanuts cartoon about lepidoptery. David, will you show the cartoon?
Yep, we'll give it a shot. Okay, hold on. Okay, sorry, let me find it.
It's number 1.
Yeah. I know, but there's lots of things
Yeah.
I'm sharing. So hold on 1 second. Okay.
So the butterflies are free. What does that mean? Charlie Brown asked. It means you can have all of them you want. So much for higher thought. So that's my introductory cartoon.
Okay. You want me to, what do you want me to do, Helene? Leave it up?
Take it off. And this is the, in second grade curriculum, science curriculum, we raised painted lady butterflies. They were natural to the Maryland environment. And the students we had 3 classes, they each watched the life cycle of the butterfly on his or her desk. Then when the painted lady was able to, we had a release ceremony. So David, if you can show the photos.
I will, and I'm just going to leave this up because I think it's a little too hard to keep going back and forth.
Okay. So you see the flight cage here. We were ready to release Dr. Chassett, Helen Chassett. Our principal was reading the story to the kids, and I was reading the story. The next picture. And this is the this is a picture of me reading to the kids and then we released them, and they were so excited. They had watched the butterflies grow, painted ladies grow, and all of a sudden we released them, and they were holding them and then letting them go, and then finally they all went. And so the next slide. So I gotta put my so I want to show that I showed you the photos. So I used the science curriculum about insects and bees and butterflies. I wanted to expose my students to more. I had a beehive in my classroom for over 20 years, and they went in and out of the window, and the kids could get up and look at them at any time during the day. We had a limit of 4 people, and the bees never stung anyone. So we were successful. So this is the life cycle. I knew the median on River Road when I went to work for to go down to the well, Gene will get the phone. When I went to get the and I went my way to work in the morning, I went to the median strip, and I saw milkweed growing there. And I knew that monarchs ate only milkweed. So so I called Monarch Watch, and I got the caterpillars, monarch caterpillars, and they didn't provide the milkweed. So that was easy for me. I stopped on the way to work every day and got fresh milkweed. I want to show you, first let me go back to the basics about butterflies. All butterflies are insects. And they have 6 legs, 3 body parts, compound eyes, and a pair of antennae. All butterflies are pollinators. A pollinator is anything that helps carry the pollen from the male part of a flower stamen to the female, the same or other part of the flower, the stigma. The movement of pollen must occur for the plant to become fertilized and produce all fruit, seeds, and young plants. All butterflies go through the life cycle for about a month, from egg to larva to caterpillar to pupa to chrysalis to adult butterfly. Here's a diagram. Now you can see the diagram that I used in the classroom. So a typical butterfly would be about 4 to 6 weeks, and they go through all the 4 stages. So But a monarch life cycle is different. Whether it's born in the fall or the spring, in the spring. In the fall, it lives about a month or two. But if a monarch is born in the summer or spring, it can live 6 to 9 months. And this is almost a year. That's because it travels, it doesn't mature. And that's because it travels 3,000 miles for 60 days to Mexico. Each monarch weighs about 1/5 of a penny. So 5 monarchs would weigh a penny. The male monarch has 2 black spots on the wings, so it's easy to tell a male from a female. They're in the mountains of central Mexico. It overwinters and hibernates on the oyamel trees. Lincoln Brower, one of the world's preeminent experts on the species, said, quote, "The monarch's overwintering colonies in Mexico rank as one of the great biological wonders of the world." And so he was very famous. He died in 2018. There is a restaurant on 7th Street in DC called Oyamel Cocina Mexican. And we went there on Monday, and it's wonderful Mexican food. And there are butterflies all over the walls, painted on the walls. The Aztecs who lived in Mexico believed that when we die, our souls become butterflies. So it was a religious experience for them. In 1976, Fred Uquar and his wife Nora, with their photographer Bianca Levis, went to central Mexico and met up with Mr. and Mrs. Brugger, who showed them that the monarch butterflies were in the oyamel trees. So David, can you show the next slide, number 4? So this 1976, you can see it up in the right-hand corner. That's the photographer. They had an article, but before that, they didn't know where they went in central Mexico. So anyway, this magazine, for you to borrow if you want to see the story of the monarchs in Mexico. Do you want to see some monarchs in Mexico? I went there in 2010 with 7 teachers for 4 days with Conservation International. 4 days, 3 overwintering sites, and they were 10,000 feet up, and the last one was on horseback. So I wanted to, I bought a CD down there, but it's copyrighted, and the experience we had when the 7 teachers, so we saw the monarchs come off the oyamel trees. They were everywhere. They were billions of monarchs. We were stepping on them. They were drinking water and mating. And this was in January. So that's when they come off the trees. And so I have a YouTube video that I'd like to show you. And David, can you show the video? And anyway,
Hold on. A little too fast.
he'll show the video. And then I have some photos of me in Mexico and a 35-second video of
I'm starting over.
meeting. Okay. All right, David, I'll leave it up to you. So it wasn't until 1976 that they discovered the oyamel trees, which they had been using to hibernate for all these years. And David's going to show you the video.
You can see it, can't you?
No, nope,
Can anybody see it?
nope.
No?
Cannot see
No.
it.
No,
Okay.
Oh, no.
We see National Geographic.
Okay, hold on. Let's try it again. Yeah, going back and forth from preview to Safari. Okay, here we go. Let us try it one more time. Let me know right away if you can hear this or not.
All right, once again,
Got
folks,
it,
here we are
got
at
it.
Rosario
Yes.
College. Another exquisite day.
They
blue
were-
skies,
I'll
maybe even
talk
more
over
butterflies than
this.
before.
They-
Absolutely extraordinary. We're looking at temperatures kind of approaching 70 degrees, and these butterflies are just loving it. Super, super active all around me. There's one. Wow. Oh, and
So
there's,
this
I
is
have a
what we
friend.
thought.
Hello.
That this was the town. There were just millions, billions of butterflies all over the place. And we were stepping on them. There were so many of them. Aren't they beautiful? There they are on the OML trees. They're coming off. There were billions of them. I can't
So,
tell you how many
Sitting
billions.
quite literally in a river of butterflies. It's been going like this behind me for the better part of like 45 minutes. They're just absolutely streaming down the trail. There's no stop to it, and this is definitely one of the best days I've had in the sanctuary. It rivals some of the best wildlife settings I've ever had in my life. Simply incredible. You can see them just still streaming down there. If I go up, it's gonna kind of blow out, but you can see
I don't know who the man was.
just everywhere.
There were lots of videos on YouTube. So I'll talk over this. The monarchs navigate by the sun and the Earth's magnetic fields to reach Mexico. After the monarchs overwinter in Mexico, they fly back to where they were born. I will repeat that. They fly back to where they were born, but they do it in 4 or 5 generations. So they come off the OML trees, and the male mates with the female, and oh, this is a beautiful picture. And they fly north, and then they die. Before they die off, they mate for a month, and they go through 5 generations, 4 or 5 generations. So that's what we saw in Mexico. So it is amazing story. And I want to show you some pictures of me in Mexico.
Video, or is it just
No, it's just
so back to the photos then?
back to the photos.
That was really cool.
Okay, can anybody see, we seeing these pictures or not?
No,
Do you see? No, okay. It seems like I have to resume sharing.
You have to get out.
you're just
I
getting
may
a
have-
black screen.
Okay, let me get out, try it again. Zoom can be very annoying when you're switching between things. Okay. All right, that's the last switch. So hopefully. All right, now let's go back. Okay, next. Now we should be good.
That's the tree we took a picture of, the OML trees.
These are your pictures?
OYAMEL. These are my pictures, and they came off the trees, and they were flying around. Next slide. Next picture.
Happened to it. So hold on.
I wonder if the recording messes it up.
Okay.
So there's a picture of me holding a butterfly, and the next picture. And that was the picture I took. We were stepping on them. We couldn't help it.
Are they mating there?
They're not mating there. Next picture. That's me on a horseback. The kids took us up 10,000 feet up to the Boy-mel
The
trees.
last part you have to do on horseback or mule?
Yeah. Well, you could walk it. You could walk it. The next picture, the video. Oh, that's a picture of me holding the butterfly. And the next picture, maybe it's there was a video, 35
The only
seconds.
video, the only video I had, Helene, was the one that I showed.
Skip
Sorry.
that one. Let's
Oh,
go on to this
okay.
migration path.
So this was my migration pattern. They went up. The orange shows the southern migration. East of the Rockies, they went to Mexico, and they came back to where they were born in 5 generations. So the monarchs that were born in Bethesda, Maryland, where we were fly back to Bethesda, Maryland, and they fly they were in a New York area or an Ontario area. They fly back to where they were born. How did they do that? How do they know to do that?
It's 2 paths, right?
There's the only butterfly that flies a 2-way migration. And if they're west of the Rockies, they fly to Southern California. But the main migration is to Mexico. So, so you see the map there. Okay. The female can lay up to 400 eggs and milkweed plants. And an egg goes through the life cycle from egg to caterpillar to larva to chrysalis to pupa to adult butterfly. The generation happens about 4 or 5 times in the butterfly, till the butterfly reaches the area where they were born. This is the only butterfly that flies a 2-way migration. So I want to show the
You mean
chart
there and back.
there and back.
Okay.
I want to show the next slide, a picture of the monarch butterfly that I had in my my classroom for many years. So you see the caterpillar, the egg, and the caterpillar. The caterpillar is very distinctive. It's yellow and white and black. And then they go into a chrysalis and they come out of a butterfly.
This right here.
So the monarch is an endangered species. The EDF says that the Environmental Defense Fund says, quote, monarch populations have declined more than 90% in the last 30 years. I'll repeat that. The monarch populations have declined more than 90% in the last 30 years. Between 1990 and 2015, the US Fish and Wildlife Service says 1 billion monarchs vanished. So this decline is due to 3 things: habitat loss, pesticides, and climatic change. I'll do the most important is the third. The habitat loss. In the forests of central Mexico are facing habitat loss because the residents there are illegally chopping down trees. They get money for their lumber. Locals are responsible for illegal logging. So the monarchs have fewer places to overwinter in the forests of Mexico. And the second reason that they're declining are the pesticides. An increase in use of chemicals that kill milkweed all over the US. The monarchs need their milkweed, and it's the farmers who use the pesticides to clear the land to grow their crops. And the big companies like Monsanto provide the pesticides. I guess we need those for the farmers, but they also kill the monarchs. And the third reason is climate change. That's the most important. The violent storms, the high temperatures, and the dry conditions throughout the US disrupt the equilibrium. This is the most important reason. One of the world's oldest, most resilient species could be decimated, and soon, by climate change. In the Washington Post a month ago on 3/2/22, there was an editorial beyond a wake-up call. And quote, there's the effect of climate change will have on wildlife. The report estimates that up to 14% of species in terrestrial ecosystems will likely face a very high risk of extinction if the globe warms up. Remember, many of these species are essential to human civilization. If they disappear, so will the pollinators, the monarchs that sustain our agriculture. All three of these, habitat loss, pesticides, and climate change, endanger the monarchs. So what can we do as members of Temple Mica and friends of Temple Mica? I suggest 4 things. If you have a garden or a place to plant milkweed, you can go to your local garden shop and ask about local milkweed. There are 100 species of milkweed, so surely you can find some that pertain to you. The milkweed contains toxins. They taste bad to birds and other insects. They stay away from the milkweed. So only the monarchs eat the milkweed. And my sister-in-law in Florida, Beverly Schiff, sent out postcards to friends. Do you want to show the postcard, David? Number 10. So she said, Rabbi Joel Levine said, when you see a butterfly, think of it as a postcard from God. Monarch butterflies are endangered species. They lay their eggs on the milkweed plant only. Their eggs evolve into caterpillars. The caterpillars eat the leaves, and the milkweed plant eventually becomes monarch butterflies. And there's she sent all these postcards out to friends in Florida to plant milkweed. And number 2, you can plant butterfly nectar plants. Check with your garden shops which plants are sturdy to avoid pesticides. And number 3, you can join citizen groups like Monarch Watch to track the monarch populations. That's what I did. They can send you the eggs and you can watch them grow into the butterflies. So you have to provide the milkweed. And then when we had the kids watch them on their desks, and then when we had the release ceremony, we held up the butterfly and I got tags from Monarch Watch, and there was a number on them, and then we tagged them, and we sent off to Monarch Watch what day it was, what sex it was, female or male, and where we were in the States. And so you don't know if our butterflies got picked up, but somewhere along the line to Mexico, on their way to Mexico, the Monarch Watch people took their butterfly nets and captured one of the monarchs and took down the number and sent it into Monarch Watch. And so we didn't know if our butterflies were caught and picked up, but we were part of the research. And so number 4, you can always support Monarch Watch in conservation and donate and donate and donate. And there are 9.
Show number 11.
Number 11.
Slide number 11.
Number 11. You can see that there are 10 organizations that I found that support Monarch Watch: the Xerxes Society for Invertebrate Biology Conservation, the Environmental Defense Fund, the Monarch Watch, which we did to save our monarchs, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Restoring Habitat for Monarch Butterflies, the National Wildlife Federation, the Monarch Joint Venture, and the Monarch Pollination and Conservation Fund. And the Natural Resources Defense Council, they do it, and the Nature Conservatory all help monarchs to survive. So that's the end of, I have another, when I used a lot of the books, An Extraordinary Life.
The book here.
Yeah. The Extraordinary Life is a kid's book, but it's really an adult book. It's you can show that book, David. Back
Yeah.
to me.
Does he have them?
No, he doesn't have them.
He just has the list. He's showing the list.
He's showing the
You
list.
want me to, yeah,
And I gotta go. I read it to the kids in school, and they responded. It calls for a total response. And this is Melody's Mystery. This is Melody's Mystery, and it's in Spanish and English. So that's my talk. You all are now lepidopterists, and I'll take any questions.
you have one more slide, Helene.
Oh, there's one more slide. So he says that's an old, the policeman is picking him up, and I don't see it. That's an old photo. So I wanted to end with a cartoon. So.
Okay.
So do you have any questions, or you want to go to?
Sid's gonna take.
I'm here.
take that over.
I've got questions,
Hold
lots
on
of
a
questions in the chat, Helene. And
I'll read you the question.
this was just lovely. The first, as usual at Micah, we get comments and then some questions. The first is a comment from Fancy, who loves her scarf. Why don't you open it up a little bit so we can see it better?
My scarf with the monarchs on it.
When did you get
Yes.
that?
I got that at, when I taught school.
So you've had it for years.
I had it for years.
Well,
I have my earrings, monarch earrings.
those we can't see, but next time we see you. Barbara Diskin wonders, or doesn't wonder, she said about 15 years ago, she saw a marvelous IMAX movie on this at the Smithsonian. Did you see it too?
No, I don't think I saw it.
I think we did.
Uh,
Was it?
so
You could
the,
find out.
well, I'll find out. Maybe I saw it.
Harriet Weiner noticed that you referred to Monarch Watch. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is? And are there specific plants that attract butterflies?
The monarchs only eat milkweed, so they are attracted to the milkweed plants.
What do they eat in Mexico? What do they eat in Mexico?
Oh,
Tacos?
I don't know. What they drink the water, and we were stepping in the streams, so we were stepping on all of them. The monarchs, the other butterflies eat the nectar from the flowered plants, I guess, but they don't eat the milkweed. There are many other butterflies.
I see this. You get messages. I found the movie.
Now, you have said, I want to tee up a question from Claire Rubin, who asks, what happens after 5 generations? I just want to back up before you respond to that. I found it a little confusing to understand whether it's an individual butterfly who makes that long trip up from Mexico back into the north, or is it the progeny who do this?
No, there's an individual monarch that doesn't come to maturity. It flies for 3,000 miles to Mexico, and it lands in Mexico and it hibernates on the oyamel trees. And then when it returns to the place where it was born, it goes through 4 or 5 generations. So the monarch comes off of the oyamel trees and it mates, and the flies north. The new monarch flies north, and then it dies. Before it dies, it mates again, and it goes through 4 or 5 generations and goes back to where they were born. So it's one generation down to Mexico and 4 or 5 generations back to where they were born. How does it know to do that? That's amazing.
They don't know, right?
They don't know.
So the southbound monarch has a one-way ticket, essentially.
Yes.
But he knows the family's going to make the return trip.
Yes.
And I think you said that they're really hibernating in Mexico, so they don't do any eating. They don't have to eat, is that correct?
They don't have to eat. I guess they eat the stuff off the trees, but they hibernate and they fall asleep, I guess, on the trees. We went in late January and they were coming off the trees that point. So that's why we got to see them.
All right, now back to Claire's question. What happens after 5 generations?
What happens after 5 generations? They come back to the place where they were born. And then they, if they are born in the spring, if they mate in the spring, then they make the trip back to the south, to the central Mexico. Is that what you mean?
I think so.
In other words, they take 5 generations, but probably coming back to the place where they were born. Then they start over again. And if they were born in the spring, they take 6 to 9 months to fly to Mexico.
So Ruth Simon asks, during the 5 generations when butterflies are born, will they take 5 generations to come back to these new locations?
Yes, yes. They take 5 generations to come back to Bethesda, Maryland, where they were born. They come back to New York, where they were born. They come back to Ontario, Canada. That's what's amazing about them. They have a 2-way migration, and they're the only butterfly that has a 2-way migration east of the Rockies.
So does that mean that other butterflies who migrate only go one way?
They may not migrate to Mexico. They may just live for a month, 2 months, a month and a half, a month or a month and a half.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the survival of these creatures. Karen Rosen asks, does spraying against mosquitoes kill the monarchs?
I don't know if but there's lots of pesticides that out there that kill the monarchs. And I don't know about mosquitoes, spraying for mosquitoes.
So they are harmed directly by the spraying, but their food supply is the crucial thing. The milkweed is destroyed
Yes,
by pesticides and it's not available.
yes, and they can pollinate.
Laura Ferguson asks, do deer eat milkweed?
I don't know if deer eat milkweed, but probably not, because it tastes bad to animals and insects. The only people it doesn't taste bad to is the monarchs, as far as I know.
Francie asks, how on earth do you tag a butterfly?
So you tag the butterfly, you take it out of the cage. We put them in a flight cage, and you take them out one at a time, and you hold the wings up, and you put the seal on the wings. It's very easy. I was surprised at how easy it was. So we tagged a lot of butterflies, and I did it mostly. The teachers, the parents did it. Maybe some of the kids did it. I can't remember, but then we send it the tag number off to Monarch Watch, and we'd say where it was sent from, and whether it was a male or female, and what was the date, and we let it go. And the
Okay,
kids
I
were
think-
outside watching the release of the monarch.
So this tagging is more like what we see on fruits and vegetables. You simply,
Yes.
you
A
fill it
little
in.
tiny seal, a seal with a number, and somewhere along the line, maybe Monarch Watch catches it, catch it in the butterfly nets, and they send it to Monarch. They release the caterpillar, the butterfly, and it's on its way to Mexico, and they send the information into a Monarch Watch. So we don't know if they caught our butterflies, but we were part of the research. So the kids followed that, and I kept a track of the Monarch Watch and how they reached Mexico.
Okay, so Helen Chassett says, great presentation, Helene. Even though I had the pleasure of seeing the monarchs in Mexico with you, I learned some more today.
She was great. There were 6 teachers and her. She was the principal of Burning Tree Elementary School, and she came on the 4-day trip. We didn't miss we missed 1 day of school. It was a teachers meeting, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful to see the monarchs.
Evie Beck is worried. Did the butterflies die when you stepped on them?
Yes, that
There
we
were
couldn't
billions of
help
them.
it. We couldn't help it. We tried to step lightly, but sometimes we just stepped on them. And there were billions of them.
Helen asks again, or a comment. So the great-great-great-grandchildren find the birthplace of their ancestors.
Yes, yes.
They don't know how.
They don't know how. They don't know how. The video I showed that David didn't have was a video of the monarchs mating, and Helen says the gentleman who was holding the monarch said they mate for 6 hours, and she says, "Oh, I'm going to tell my husband that." So they made a long time. So I'm sorry you didn't get to see that video.
Goodness. Laura Ferguson, your students probably will have a lifelong appreciation of monarchs.
Yes.
I think so. Maybe it would be helpful to remind us what role the monarchs and their other fellow pollinators play in our environment. Why is it so much to worry about here?
Because of the pollination allows the plant to come to fruition and to blossom, and the plants, the monarchs would pollinate the flowers. All the butterflies pollinate the flowers, but the monarchs don't get eaten by the. They take anyway. They live a long life.
Monarchs don't get eaten because their bright colors tell
They're
the
bright colors,
insects, right?
Yeah,
Do they
tell them they're insects. Did I answer the question?
I think so. It's for us, some city folks like me who don't really appreciate what's going on in our food supply and how dependent we are on the bees and the other pollinators. Phyllis Posner comments that the monarchs store food on their way to Mexico, but don't eat while in Mexico. I think we did that.
Yeah.
David Diskin asked, do they store food for the return trip?
No, they probably eat. They're only alive for a month or two, or for 4 or 5 generations, and so they eat while they're traveling, I guess.
Well, Seth and Gail want to know how fast a butterfly flies, and is it faster flying south compared to flying north?
Well, they fly north in 5 generations, 4 or 5 generations, and they fly south in 1 generation. Across the water, the wind takes them probably, and they fly 60 days. They said 60 days to get to central Mexico, and they didn't know until 1976 that they were oyamel trees in the
Middle of Mexico.
the middle of Mexico, central Mexico, 10,000 feet up.
For those west of the Mississippi, where do they fly to?
They fly the west of the Rockies. They fly to
Rockies.
Southern California,
Don't they fly? Isn't it Pacific
but most
Grove?
of them go to central Mexico.
Isn't it Pacific Grove in
Yeah, Pismo Beach and
Pacific Grove in like the Monterey Peninsula is famous every year for some of the monarchs that come
yeah.
from there.
Ruth Simon goes back to the tagging technique, asking on Jenny's behalf, I thought the oils from human hands were bad for butterflies. Do you need to wear gloves when tagging?
No, we didn't wear gloves. We held the tip of the wing and put the tag on right away. It was easy. You should try it.
Andy Mathis comments that from having checked the internet, milkweed is deer resistant, but not deer proof.
Oh, it's not deer proof. Oh, I didn't know that. So
Oh,
the deer may eat the milkweed.
from Phyllis Posner. Did you get to listen to the butterflies? There are so
Oh.
many flying around that you can hear the
Yes.
whooshing of their collective wings.
Yes, we could hear them. There was noise on the video I showed that you could hear them. I forgot to mention that you could hear them flying around. There were billions of them.
Are they dormant?
Amazing.
Are they dormant at night?
They
What is
sleep
their
at night.
activity like?
They sleep at night. I guess that once they come off the trees, they sleep the nights are colder and they sleep in the cold. I don't know. We didn't see any of them sleeping. We were there during the day.
Excuse me, Margie, I can't see the full name,
Gustafson.
Yes. Do you plant milkweed in Bethesda and see monarch butterflies on the milkweed?
Yes, you can plant milkweed in your garden and they'll attract the monarchs. But they're vanishing. They're vanishing. So so be aware of that. Be aware of that.
I don't know whether you can see this, but from the internet and a website called pollinator.org is an absolutely beautiful artist rendering of the flight path, the migration flight path, and called the Monarch Highway.
Do they come back to where they were born? Does it say they could fly north?
The print is too small for me to read what I copied. But I thought that website, pollinator.org, might be a place.
Pollinator.org. I will look that up.
We had a real surge in interest here, but I think we're kind of short on more questions. Let's have another call for them. Were you unable to include anything that you now would like to put in?
Show a picture of Isaac.
Well, I showed my grandson Isaac in California. Daniel's going to put it up. I had a lot of pictures. I have a whole book of pictures to show the
Well,
show
maybe
where we went.
when Lunch and Learn convenes in person,
Yes,
you can bring that and show
Yeah.
it as a follow-up.
yes, I will be glad to. I will bring my photograph book.
Andy Mathis notes that she joined late, so she's not sure if Flight Behavior by Barbara Kingsolver was mentioned. All about butterfly habitat and finding the Mexico grounds.
You read that.
Is that I read that book. It's a fiction book, right?
Right, yes,
And it has-
she's a novelist.
King Solver, Barbara King Solver. It's a great book. They show that how the monarchs are in a state, I think it's Texas,
West Tennessee, I think.
maybe Tennessee, where they migrated to instead of going to central Mexico. And
Would you like, go ahead. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, I'll ask if you would like to introduce the assistants surrounding you there.
Yes, Daniel and Jean is here.
No, I,
AV, we're the AV club.
We're the AV club. They're the AV club.
Okay, that's great.
Butterflies migrate.
So I think we've kind of reached the end of the questions we have here. Maybe it's time to throw it back to headquarters.
Get to throw it back to
And
headquarters.
thank you, Helene.
Sure, thank you, Sid.
Thank you, Helene, for your very informative presentation on marvelous monarch butterflies.